Good evening or good morning or whatever time it is wherever you are. This is the virtual Dalcroze meetup, and I'm Stephen Neely, your co-host, and my dear friend Veronica Bileski is here with me. Um, and we are really excited to see everyone and say hi. Um, a great room of dear friends, actually. So, welcome and happy spring. Today was my first day to get to sort of reopen my outdoor classroom. And so I was teaching in the beautiful sun and the green lawn, and it was great weather in Pittsburgh for day one of back outside teaching. And so I hope you all are doing well. I think before we get do anything, we should do a quick getting to know you random breakout room. So let me quickly make that up, and we will send everybody to just introduce yourself. If you would, please introduce yourself. Where are you located, and who do you teach, or who do you wish you taught? So, where are you? What is your name? Where are you? And who do you teach? You've got 3 minutes, and then we're back. Here you go.
Talking about the Greg secret from
The
yesterday.
headphone thing.
Yeah, we're talking about the headphone
Okay,
thing.
I tried it today with my high school student. It didn't work.
It didn't work.
It was so disappointing. We tried it multiple times, and at first I was like, "You're just doing it wrong," and then we like didn't. She's like, "It doesn't sound the way it's," because I was like, "It's supposed to sound like consonant and then dissonant back and forth," and she's like, "It just sounds consonant the whole time," and I'm like, "You're hearing it wrong," but then it turned out she was totally right.
So we should explain to everyone the one of the really cool things in Gregory's masterclass yesterday was sort of accidental, or at least I don't think he intended it as like one of the takeaways, but it ended up being what we thought was I still believe it. I believe in it. A big takeaway, which is that we witnessed Gregory and Veronica, separated by multiple states, sing together, and without glitch, without interruption. The sound didn't get distorted. It was actually
right.
sounded.
It was a delayed duet. So like he moved, I moved, he moved, I moved. Like it was like a 2-3 suspension that kept resolving itself. So I thought that like with a it's like if it's a built-in kind of canonic thing it would work, but it didn't work today. So I'm just
Yeah, I wonder the two big technical requirements, where you had to have original sound on, which if you all don't know about that button, we'll gladly tell you about that button. But you had to have original sound on, and the original sound definitely permits sustain and decay, in a sort of natural way. Whereas if original sound is off, then the Zoom algorithm, will hear sustain and decay and think it's background noise, and then it'll turn it off. And so you hear this sort of immediate clipping. And so that was step one. And then step two was everybody who was singing, who was trying to sing at the same time, needed to be wearing headphones so that they could hear the other person without that other person's sound coming out into the room and clouding their own singing mic. And so there was some little bit in there where if we had those two things going, that seemed to be the required two things. I'll add to that, both parties need to be running the latest version of Zoom. So that would be, wouldn't be surprised if there was a conflict there. So I don't know, Veronica, don't give up. I want to hear how you get it right. And I have yet to try it, but I'll be trying it too. So that was a pretty great one, because boy, we really heard for the first time in a year two people in two different Zoom windows singing together, and we could hear both pitches steady and clean.
right. I
So
think that was amazing too that you as the listener could
in a
hear both.
in a third, and I mean,
Ah,
a whole bunch of us,
yeah.
all of us in all of our different rooms could hear the two of them singing. Everybody else was muted. Those two unmuted, had original sound and had headphones on, and sang together. And so they still had to deal with lag, but the pattern that they were singing, it didn't really, it wasn't affected with that lag. So There you go. Little tidbit for everybody to go experiment, and then report back and let us know how it works for you. I'm going to hand it over to Veronica, who I think will set us up here for our next little bit.
Sure. So I posted the agenda in the chat, although I think Teo just joined, so let me repost it so that everyone can see.
Everybody should
So
click the link. You're going to need it.
Oh, yeah, that's true. So, just a reminder that Virtual Dance with Dawn Series 2 starts this weekend, or maybe Monday if you're in Asia or Australia. And yeah, it's a 6-week class. People have really enjoyed it, and Dawn is going to continue and build on what she already did, but also welcome in new people. So, it works either way as an extension or as a new series by itself. We have one more masterclass in April with Iramar Rodriguez. And then if you click on that agenda, it says Reflections on Anniversary of VDM. So if you click on that, if you're interested, some people in this community wrote some reflections on it's been a year of these meetings and what have we accomplished, what has this meant to us. So they're just really lovely reflections. I think Wendy is on this call and she wrote one, so thank you, Wendy. And Selma wrote some, and I'm trying to, and Alice, did you send one in, Alice? You're on mute, Alice.
Mass is behaving. I was going to ask if we still could send ours in, because I've got a few notes down.
Of course.
And
absolutely.
Yeah, that'd be great. Excellent. So we can still add to the reflections. Wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you.
Please do. Okay. So the plan for today is to break apart into, I don't know, Stephen, maybe just 2 rooms.
I'm kind of voting 2, not more than.
So these are our super breakout rooms. We're going to stay in them for a bit longer and have some time to chat. And we have 3 questions to propose to you. Let me make them all show up on one page. So I think every breakout room can just decide if they want to do one of these questions or if they want to touch a couple of them. Question 1, how have our questions and discussions at the VDM shifted over the course of the past year? Question 2, what needs do we have as teachers and musicians now? And what needs do we anticipate having next year and also in the next 5 years? So thinking a little further ahead. Question 3, how will the option of teaching online evolve and how will it embed itself in our lives? So I think it's fairly clear to many of us that it is here to stay, it is going to evolve, and it is already embedded in our lives. But I think the more interesting question is how, like what do we think could happen with it? We can't know the future, but I think by thinking ahead to the possibilities, that's I think how the VDM community has actually stayed fairly ahead of the game and really pushed this community, and we've really pushed our learning forward by asking these questions, these kind of forward-looking questions. So I think there's a lot of really cool and interesting and thoughtful people in this meeting, and we all have a lot to learn from each other. So I think the question for us to decide, Stephen, is how long we want to do this so that we can have time to come back and share.
12 minutes.
What? So short?
Oh, that'll barely give us 30 minutes to talk afterwards.
Okay.
15?
All right.
15? All right. We will come back at 1/2 the hour. I'll call you back. If for some reason I'm going to be here waiting for other people who show up later, what have you. So if for some reason somebody needs me, summon me or come out of the room and come say hi. Otherwise, 15 minutes. The group that you've randomly been assigned to, you can just discuss which of those things, or all of them, or none of them, or one of them would you like to discuss. And then the idea is that when we come back in 15, we'll ask the 2 groups to sort of share what you discussed, and then we'll see if we have a little bit more to add coming out of all of that. So thanks so much for coming, everyone, and say hi to your group. Ready? 15 minutes. All right. Looks like we have most everybody back. It occurred to me I could have waited 45 more seconds before I called you back. But then I thought, I'm so anxious to hear what everybody's talking
Yeah, you
about.
interrupted Ardith mid-sentence.
Yeah.
So now, Ardith, will you finish your sentence for
Go
us?
ahead, Ardith, finish your sentence.
Thank you. I was just saying something I've never really done before, particularly with my middle school or college students, was to have them record in this virtual crazy way. But I found in January easyvirtualchoir.com, and it's the literally the easiest thing that I've been able to have my students just add their track. Even my third graders can do it. Like, it's super super simple. And then every week, like for my college students, I'm having them, instead of just recording themselves and submitting it as an assessment, like they're they're feeling like they're part of a larger ensemble um, as they see their tracks add throughout the week. And I'm getting really positive feedback from them from that process.
Oh, that's excellent. Ardith, I don't know who all was in your group, but would you or others, I guess Veronica was in that group, would somebody from that group or a couple of you from that group tell us a little bit of what you all discussed the last 15 minutes?
Alice was saying some really kind things about Marlene's teaching. Um,
Yeah,
and
it's
yeah,
very exciting if you teach in the public schools, where I really hope our work will begin to permeate more of our public schools. I know there's certain pockets of the country where there is a Dalcroze tradition, but and I do remember hearing who was it at Pittsburgh who started out teaching in the Project Head Start.
Sure. Marta Sanchez and Annabelle Joseph and
Yeah,
Natalie
yeah, both.
Ozeas, and there was a whole crowd of them who then went on to like teach everybody way beyond Pittsburgh. But that was a really interesting crowd.
Yeah, and I don't know if that tradition continues, but I think we still have so much to offer in that realm of, people are always talking about the need to bring up the standards. And unfortunately, there's a new tendency, not new, all that new, but to say we've got to concentrate on what they call the core subjects, meaning numeracy, math and language arts. And I've had a principal say to me and another music teacher, oh no, because he had been a kindergarten teacher and he knows about teaching reading. And he was saying, no, no, you can't teach it through music. It has nothing to do with music. And that's why we have to basically shrink down the number of minutes for music so that we can help them gain their other important skills.
Right.
So it's still, I think there's so much that we have to offer to really, as Marlena was saying, she's got children in the inner city who otherwise can be very unmotivated about coming to school. And we can, I think through our work, if we can demonstrate this is the way to not only motivate them to enjoy themselves and to learn, but to learn things that are relevant throughout the curriculum. And any number of teachers have said to me, when you teach music, you're helping them in all of their subjects. But I think the kind of work that she's doing, we could show here are these children who otherwise might not be motivated even to attend. And here they are, not only attending, but participating in it in quite an impressive way.
Yeah. It's wonderful. Thank you. Let's ask the second group a little bit, and then we'll go back and forth, please. But in the not Veronica group, I don't even know which group was which. So in that other crowd, what sorts of things did you all get into? What were some of the takeaways? There's someone there who will take a first turn.
We were just am I the one? Are we the one?
Yeah.
We were just talking about the online thing and how exhausted everybody is about it, and how it's here to stay, and the benefits of maybe continuing some of it, and what needs to change. It's an interesting thing. I think that when we first came to this. Everyone was skeptical that it would work at all. And we've all found, I think, that some things work and some things don't. And it's not as good as being in person. But I think the takeaway from our group was that we have an opportunity to get to more people than we might have otherwise. And at least people will get a taste. It won't be the perfect thing, but I think Dalcroze has evolved since its birth, and I think it will have to continue to evolve to survive. And we're just keeping the faith, I guess, and
Right.
trying not to burn out.
So what sort of, I'm happy to, I'd be very excited actually to hear any more sort of reports from either of the groups about, kind of where you were headed in your conversation, what you were getting into. I'm curious, though, just to follow on Rebecca's comment there, what sorts of things do you all see the online teaching, like in what settings do you think we'll continue doing this? Even though we don't know, I mean, I assume it won't be Zoom as the specific company that's, doing it 10 years from now or something, but the, regardless of the exact thing, when do we guess that this sort of online interaction is going to be the right answer? Does anybody have ideas about that? Alan?
Well, I know a lot of conversations lately have centered around access. And I think that's kind of the biggest thing that we can take away from this is there have been a lot of arts organizations and other fields as well that have opened up what they do to a wider audience, and allowed people to see and interact with people that they wouldn't normally have ever gotten the chance to. And it kind of brings down some of these walls that have, I think, in the past been artificially placed there, sometimes just due to geography, but also due to sometimes the institutions themselves. So I'm hoping that at least gives an avenue, to people who would benefit from this, but also would also help organizations reach out better to people that are in need of something like this, that haven't had exposure and could really benefit.
Yeah. Other thoughts about it? Veronica?
I can imagine. What I've heard a lot about is the geographical boundaries, and people without access to a lot of some specific type of learning in their area can now connect pretty far away. And so I think the way that will change is that we'll have these courses that are kind of hybrid courses, in the sense that you do some chunk of the work virtually, and then you come for one weekend every 3 months and are in residence in person for an intensive thing. And that, I think, might replace like a year-long in-person kind of study. That is just going to be some kind of combination where the teachers think carefully about what can be conveyed virtually, what kind of work are you going to do on your own. And I think it's really interesting that this is very much probably going to touch the Dalcroze world, and it would not have ever happened or been accepted if not for the fact that we've all been forced to do it and see for ourselves what is possible, right? As opposed to, knowing that like Jeremy Didis is running his school and he does that online thing, but no one else does, right? Like that, now we've all experienced it, so we all have firsthand knowledge of what it's like as teachers and students.
Yeah. Rebecca?
Yeah, I know that, speaking from my my husband's experience, and probably a lot of other people know this as well from the business world, they had absolutely no idea that it would possibly be as successful as it is, and that people can actually work at home and they can not have all that money invested in real estate and all the safety of them having to drive to the office all the time and all of that. And so maybe we can take advantage of that in our world as well.
Yeah, well, we certainly, I mean, the last year has been a rousing success in a couple of ways, and that we've the VDM, what has, I think, been our sort of number one benefit here is just that we've been able to connect with so many colleagues from all around the world. And none of us had to drive anywhere. None of us had to rent a hotel room. None of us had to get on a plane. And so for all of those reasons, it's been really lovely and wonderful. And how nice to be able to sort of embolden, these connections and to share. And so I think that aspect of it, I can't picture a way that we could replicate that, once the virus is completely gone, we would, to go back would just be to go back to different versions of isolation. Most people are nowhere near a Dalcroze training center. If the point of the discussion here is to try to learn a little bit more about Jacques Dalcroze and these teaching methods, almost nobody is near one. And so the only way over the years to get the information has been really to travel. And so my personal hope is that we'll be able to make better use of these platforms for that kind of enrichment and some amount of teacher training. And then there is a bigger conversation that's begun that doesn't have any obvious answer right now as to how much sort of official teacher training could happen through these avenues, because there's certainly call for it. Lots of people are asking now more than ever, is there any way we could get the certificate going through these platforms before we show up, and so that all is definitely not known sort of what policies anybody's comfortable with. But when it comes to enrichment, we are already well on our way. And it's not just us. We've now seen a number of our colleagues around the world pick up and do their own masterclass series, which we're all completely supportive of course. But we've seen different Dalcroze masterclass series starting to pop up, different versions of online enrichment taking place. And so I assume that that'll continue for quite some time. I guess, yeah, Veronica, please.
Oh no, Jeanette wanted to say something.
Oh, thanks. Okay. So I was thinking that we all have to adapt. This is a new reality, and it's good. It's a good thing that we're all adapting, and the teachers, we're reacting and learning new skills to teach online. And so this is going to stay, and we are accumulating new teaching experience of teaching online. So maybe in the future exam is can you give a lesson online? So but this adaptability is really important, and and if we can evolve with this, it's good for us. And it's like Alan was saying, breaking down walls, and we can meet more people. And even though it's not the perfect Dalcroze lesson online, but for some people who could never had a chance, could at least have a taste, and we reach more people in that sense. Maybe not so deep, but bigger quantity.
Yeah. Well, I think what I heard Alan describing wasn't just one thing. So I heard Alan, and you by all means correct me or help clarify. Some of what I think you're thinking about has to do with like orchestras and opera companies and sort of big performing houses, or these situations where they've had a sort of old school audience patron kind of relationship where you show up to the house and you go to the concert series, but now all of a sudden there's this opportunity to do other things. So I think there's a set of attentions that have to do with sort of these institutional sorts of ways that we've interacted with the public, and now all of a sudden there's these completely new audiences available. I was just talking with a group that works their centers in New York City, and they do education and outreach all through the boroughs. But we were just pointing out that now all of a sudden there's no reason for you to limit this to New York. If what you're doing is an online concert series, you could have people in Scotland and Australia and all over the place, chiming into these, and all of a sudden you have now such a different audience than you had. So I think that's a really interesting set of things to think about, and I'd be really happy to take a couple minutes tonight if anybody wants to talk a little bit more about that. then there's this idea of sort of professional enrichment, which I would be one way of describing. When I tell my family what this is, I say, oh, we have a study session. That's what I call this. This is when I tell my brother what I'm doing here with the VDM, I say, oh yeah, we have this international study session where we just sort of get together and we share. And I think that, so there's a community that has to do with us, like specifically us, people who are working in our different ways, but trying to use these methods and trying to get ideas and encouragement from each other. I think that's a really special thing. There's something about teacher training, which is maybe a little bit more official than what this is, or more organized, where here it's kind of, oh, I wonder what we're going to do next week. Whereas in a teacher training where there's an actual course of some sort, so what we're doing with Dawn's class is a sort of, we call it a short course, but really compared to this, it's a long form, like many nights or many sessions. So there's that, which would be kind of adult training. And then there's this idea of what are we doing in the schools, elementary through college. And I'm really sort of continually wondering, am I going to be in a hybrid mode forever? Or is there a point where I get to stop being hybrid with my college students, which is because to me, it's maddening and so difficult. And yet I can conceive of a future where the college student says, well, I have the flu and I should not be near anybody. So of course you're going to let me Zoom in. And now all of a sudden, what is my responsibility and what is the new routines of our university? And I can see both sides. And so I don't know how to navigate that. So I think each of those, and I'm sure you all can come up with more scenarios, but I think they're not all exactly the same thing, even though they're using similar platforms. So, I think we could easily fill up our last another hour just talking about new models for performance, or outreach, with organizations, or how are we using this modalities in the elementary schools? How are we using it for teacher training? How are we using it for enrichment? I don't know. Does anybody have either another category to put on that list, or is there one of those that you thought, oh, I really want to talk about one of those for a moment?
Could I just raise a question? I think Rebecca was speaking about how, and I think admittedly we know the value of what this crisis has forced us into in terms of being able to gather from around the world. For us as adults, it's brought a lot of new possibilities and depth for us. But I still do find, it's a risk that people are going to say, and Bill Gates would be one of them, children can learn online. Why bother having school buildings? And we need the space, we need the buildings. I mean, unfortunately, less and less, at least in my area, are they giving a room for music to be taught in. You're just supposed to traipse around like a nomad with your little cart or your little bag of things, and often don't have a piano, which is frightful, I think. But we still need our schools, and we need our communities, and the children need each other. I mean, you notice when you're teaching a group of children how something will be funny for one child, and then the other children next to them start laughing, and pretty soon you have the whole class enjoying something. Their enthusiasm rubs off on each other. And I don't find that happens when they're a little postage stamp on a screen.
No, obviously. And I think this is a lot of the reason, at least here in the States, why there's been such a push to it's one of the reasons why there's been such a push to get the students back in classrooms, not necessarily music classrooms specifically, but just in classrooms in general. I think there is a critical number of people who are very interested in getting back to buildings and into rooms with each other. So I've heard some of your fears as well, Alice. I don't mean to, I'm not in any way disregarding that. I think that there is some, I think that the idea that hybrid or that online now exists in a way that has some proven record to it does call into question, well, how often do we need to go into the office, and how often should we just do 3 days a week at the schools and then 2 days they can be at home? I mean, those kinds of questions will continue around. The Dalcrozians, we certainly, though, as much as anybody, value the intimacy, the closeness, the actual literal contact, of hand holding or of do-si-doing, or, or finding ways to sort of work in small groups. And and I know it's a lot of what we've all sort of commiserated about this year. What else? Any of those, Teo?
What's Veronica wanting to talk about before?
If I remember, I'll tell you. Meanwhile, Teo can speak.
Teo, are you still there? Or are you gonna?
The invention of the television didn't end concerts. Concerts didn't just stop. We didn't stop having opera and stop having concerts and stop having bands coming together to play because we had MPDB now. I mean, we have the television. So you can see that all. Like everyone, and they are not replacements for each other. You can't say that since we have television, then we don't need to see music in real life. And you also can't say that we can't watch television because we should only watch music in real life. It's important to appreciate the different media is good at different things.
Very nice. And you know, it makes me think. I think every generation has had their own version of this. You know, I've read some novels where when books really became the thing that everybody could afford, there was lots of people saying books are just terrible. They'll rot your kid's mind sitting with their head down looking at a book. You know, what a terrible way to spend. Get out and go build something, go do something. I think every generation has had their own version of some of these ideas. I love the point, Teo. Thank you. And what I find really encouraging in that point is how we do keep going back to looking for companionship, looking for community, looking for ways to actively participate and participate with others, not all siloed, even though we have no shortage of ways to keep doing the other. Adriana?
I just wanted to share a little experience which probably is going to inspire me and others for this work, is that I am teaching at Longiet course which is called Music as a Healing Art. And consequently, I mean, the purpose of the class is to create actually concerts for senior citizens. So what we ended up doing is that we are giving virtual concerts on Zoom to different kind of senior communities in the Boston area. And I cannot describe in words how moving that is and how that is received and how the students react to this. I need to mention that 80% of my students are in China. They are all Longi students who couldn't come back or didn't want to come back because they were afraid. So they are at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning in China, giving a concert to senior citizens in Boston. Just seeing the words and I have goosebumps. And then comes the Pathetica Beethoven's played in magnificent way. So it's unbelievable. And besides this, I'm teaching a seniors class for Eurythmics for seniors. Are like unbelievable how I'm hanging on it like this for every moment of it. So pure or not, Eurythmics, whatever there is, the benefit and the healing and the touching people, it's tremendous.
Are your current senior classes, are they through Zoom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, it's not only, first of all, with the seniors, you cannot jump around for an hour because they can't. So you have to do other things too, but everything is so beneficial and they are so looking forward to it. And also these little concerts of the senior communities by this class that I teach at Longi. So we reach and touch communities in very many ways, each of us in our own way, which is it's tremendous, and kids are waiting for it and students are waiting for it and they need it. how whatever we are working 10 times or 50 times more than before in order to teach a half an hour Eurythmics or 45 minutes, everybody knows that, how hard it is to prepare to do it well. And in the future, it's going to stay with us in a way or another. That's what we were talking about in our group. What way is going to depend on us and on the needs and what's going to be, everybody wants life moving. I don't know how dancers are going to do it.
Right.
We are in the same situation with Eurythmics, so.
Thank you. It's already 4 minutes till the hour. Anybody have another, I think we have time for 1 or 2 more comments here. Just thoughts, Veronica?
Well, if anybody else wants to speak.
Go ahead.
Okay. I was just really struck by Marlene's comment in our group that she's brought the world to her students through these YouTube videos. And that, you know, we all have turned to a lot of online resources and to a lot of stuff that's available on the internet and brought that into our teaching. Whereas before it was like, why would I bring a screen when I can do something that involves the students doing something? Why would they just passively sit and watch something? And you know, and Marlene said, well, it's like these 3 minutes that I've really chosen, and I've scoured the internet to find the best video and the best 3 minutes. And so it's not, it can be, I think, watching something from YouTube that you can't do because you're not able to do it, right? But some other musician in another style is able to have that, to bring that in. Like, it can be done with excellence, and it can be the most powerful 3 minutes of your lesson that like does something, and then you follow up on it or you prepare it. It can be a really big part of that. And I don't think I would have ever considered that 3 minutes of anything where children are sitting watching a screen would have been worth putting into my lesson. And now I'm like, oh, okay, I need to also be looking, what of the world can I bring in, or do I want to bring into my classroom?
Yeah, it's really been quite a year where all sorts of new perspectives have been understood. And with the way the technology allows so many things to be closer to seamless, that's what I'm hoping for in my future. We should have had a breakout session on all the features that we wish Zoom had. I have no shortage of things on my list. At the top of my list is I need quicker everything. I need to be able to get in and out of breakout rooms in a blink. This whole 60-second thing is no good for me. But it really is, it's fascinating. We're pretty much at time, and we've always tried to start on time and end on time to be respectful of everybody's calendar. I would love to just say thanks to Veronica for being such an awesome collaborator. I definitely couldn't do this on my own. And I want to say thanks to all of you who really, most all of the people on the Zoom here today are really like, you're the core. You're the people who, you know, many of the people who have been here some of the most times. And so it's just a real delight to keep working with you and to keep collaborating and thinking just about how this is going to keep evolving. We've said, Veronica and Emma and I have said that we are excited to keep on doing this as long as people want to keep showing up. And so we'll continue to try that and to try to evolve with you and with the technology and with however the culture needs to keep bending. I will say we're still looking at short courses like Dawn's course as one avenue of things that we might be playing around with. The idea of the master classes seems to really be strong, and I'm finding it really personally very beneficial. And these somewhat more informal discussions are also still so much more valuable than I would have ever guessed a year ago. It has been personally some of my lifeline and helped me feel just confident in a bunch of ways that I wouldn't have been had I not been a part of these conversations. So thank you all for all of that. Iramar Rodriguez is our next masterclass teacher. He will have a translator. His English is okay, but not great. We have a wonderful translator, though, a professional musician who Raquel Winnica Young is a dear friend who will be with us on that night to help translate. He's an amazing teacher, though, and just such full of great energy. And he's a specialist with children. So I assume that what he'll do will be more child elementary age things, although it's up to him. He has no requirements from us. But that's what I'm guessing that we'll get into, some ideas for working with the kids. And so I hope everybody will consider signing up for that one. Veronica, what else do we need to say? When's our 2 weeks?
Next masterclass is next meetup is April 6th or 7th, depending on where you are. Then we have a masterclass with Iramar, and then just one more meetup is scheduled, April 19th or 20th. We'll probably take May off, and we need to get rolling on season 4.
I know we are not on top of it. We're behind on our end. So we all kinds of exciting stuff will be coming to be announced, but not yet because we don't know what we're doing. So really nice seeing everyone. Thank you so much. Have a really good night, and we will hope to talk to everybody soon.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.